The Hacks of Gorm, Part 35, Lands That Were Once Human. Gorm still clutched his ears at the resonation of the foul cult song. Even though he was a barbarian, he knew the hypocrisy at what it had said. Cultists often claimed to be for freedom, peace, and justice, but they always did the exact opposite. Still, their singing had been especially heinous. Something else was different too, for it felt like someone or something was in his mind. The presence wasn't hostile, but was different, and could offer greater insight beyond what his usual barbarian sensibilities would allow. Still, the presence could also take control of his actions, like it had done at the cemetery above. Best to remedy it the barbarian way. Gottschalk was startled when Gorm stopped suddenly, took a lower stance, and ready to strike himself in the head with one of the sharp ends of his own great axe. Gorm? His voice echoed slightly in the mausoleum tunnel. What, Gottschalk? Gottschalk became even more confused since the barbarian wasn't talking in his usual choppy voice. He turned to Tamara, but the woman only pointed to the graves above. It must be the phantom possessing him. Resist it, Gorm! Don't let the ghost kill you, said Gottschalk. He tried to wrestle the large man's arms down, but they were too strong. It not ghost, it only me. Only haircut save me now, replied Gorm. But you'll only slice your skull open, exclaimed Tamara. Sergeyev moved to assist too, but apart from stabbing the man with his Indo-European sword, he couldn't figure out what to do. So instead, he turned to the metallic carvings on the walls of this place. Thankfully, they hadn't been defiled like the similar ones above. Look at the craftsmanship, he said. Oh, what a people they must have been! And nice women too, added Gorm. His eyes went to the exposed breast of a woman displayed. Yes, began Gottschalk nervously. The barbarian was nearly ready to swing. But you won't be able to enjoy women very much if you hit yourself with that. Me no, Gottschalk, but me must release evil spirit the barbarian way. Oh, phantom, interrupted Sergeyev, I beseech thee, leave this Neanderthal's thick skull. Instead, entreat with us upon yonder representation. Sergeyev gestured to the carvings as he spoke. Gorm felt the urge to strike Sergeyev now. Instead, the large man's eyes glazed over and he spoke in a strange voice. I am the great Spence. This barbarian will serve well to help me free these human lands. He pointed at the carvings with one hand, though the other tensed as it held the axe. Everyone else turned to look. They were finely crafted, metal high-reliefs, centuries old. And though they showed the ancients at war with their strange uniforms and weapons, they were all human. Suddenly, something emerged from behind one of them and hissed. It was a serpent and nearly ready to strike Sergeyev. How such a creature could even stir in the wintertime, Gottschalk couldn't say, but the possessed Gorm quickly dispatched it nonetheless. Gottschalk then turned his attention back to the carvings. He could notice now that the ancients had looks of serenity upon their faces. These were a people who had fought and died to make their lands great, to give a full inheritance to their descendants. Unlike the bloomer that they had encountered before, they had sired enough children and maintained their natural rights and privileges to help those children thrive. And unlike the democrats and the swamp that had drained Salpinks, none kneeled when their flag was brought forth, nor did any let snakes into their homes. It seemed that Gorm then realized it too. His internal struggle seemed to end. He shrugged, slung his great axe, and continued down the mausoleum tunnel. Gottschalk glanced back at the carvings before they left. These were once human lands, free of inhuman and cultist, and he hoped they would be so again. If only finding the torrent sword would assist with that. Next week, The Hacks of Gorm, Part 36.